Pain is a massive issue with many of the patients that I speak to. For some people, it can completely take over their lives. As a GP, sometimes I can help, but sometimes, I have to be honest, often I find pain management incredibly challenging. But I don't think it's just me. I think many doctors struggle to manage all types of pain. And I know it's a bold statement, and I'm not sure how well patients realise this. I mean, it kind of seems pretty fundamental and simple that a doctor can relieve pain, surely. Isn't modern medicine advanced enough to do something as simple as that? The problem is that pain is a lot more complicated than many people give it credit for, and not all types of pain are the same. Let's take a look. We can broadly separate things into acute pain and chronic pain. Or for better words, are we dealing with short-term pain or long-term pain? So if you sprain your ankle or you've had an operation or you've cut your finger, that's acute pain. Usually there's some structural damage to body tissue with this pain, like a wound or bruise or inflammation. But when the pain lasts for more than, say, 3 months, this is known as chronic pain. It's becoming more long-term. Sometimes patients will say to me, this pain is really severe, it's chronic. But the word chronic is only referring to the duration of pain, not how bad the pain is. Now, there might be an underlying cause, like arthritis in joints, but sometimes there is no cause we can find. We sometimes don't always fully understand why some people develop chronic or long-standing pain and other people don't. But what we do know is that it's super common. Some estimates are as high as a third to half of the population having some element of chronic pain. And unlike in short-term pain, there might not be, that bruise or swelling or an obvious damage to your body that could be seen on a scan. And that makes it difficult to explain to others in some instances. You can't see how much pain someone is in. You might have had tests that have come back normal, and some people can have a really tough time accepting chronic pain, thinking that there must be something majorly wrong with a certain part of the body. It kind of makes sense because usually we are trained to think pain equals structural damage equals you need to do something about it. In fact, a lot of the time with chronic pain, it's less to do with an injury to our bodies and more to do with our nervous system and our brain. You see, most of the time, not always, but generally, your body will do all of the healing it's going to do in the first, say, 3 to 6 months. Beyond that, if the pain is still persisting, it may be that we need to think about the pain in a slightly different way. See, at the heart of it, pain is an unpleasant experience that is completely created by our brains in response to the information received by the body, by nerves, and the way that the brain processes that information. Now, just to be clear, that's very different from, making the pain up. Some doctors compare pain to being like an alarm system. And just like an alarm box in your house, it is receiving information and signals from your body, or in this analogy, from sensors around the house. And when it senses danger, the alarm rings or the brain creates pain. That's fine during an acute, dangerous scenario where there's an intruder. But what if you just sat at home with your family and someone forgot to turn the alarm off, and now you can't do anything about it? And every time you walk into the kitchen, it sounds. There's no danger, it's not helpful. And what if then someone turns up the volume on the alarm so that it's so loud wherever you are in the house that you can't not listen to it? We kind of think the same things can happen in the brain in chronic long-term pain. Now, there's usually an initial injury of some description. Pain pathways and nerves are activated in response. But rather than settling down on its own, and for reasons not always clear, and which can be affected by things like our lifestyle, our mood, how we treat the initial injury, the areas of the brain responsible for pain can become more sensitive and become better at reproducing the pain. Now, even worse, as it becomes more sensitive, it can change such that the pain can feel different or appear in other areas. And a lot of patients can even develop quite crippling fatigue alongside. Awful. So I'm going to borrow an analogy from a pain specialist, Professor Tamar Pincus. And in this analogy, it goes that this water in here, this is your life, this is your values, your career, your interests, this is you. And you'd be ticking along fine. And then one day, you might get some pain, maybe some back pain. You've had for maybe a week. And you'll go to the doctor and you'll go, "Doctor, get rid of that. Don't like that." And I go, Yeah, okay, I can sort that out. I'll have, a couple of those, some of that. Sorted. Fine. And, the patient goes on the way. But sometimes it'll come back. And they'll say, come on, you didn't sort this out last time. Stop mucking around. Can you please get rid of this pain? I'll go, okay, we can have a go with that. Try these instead. Great. Okay. And again, it might be fine for a while. And then 6 months later, the same patient might come back. And by that time, he may have had even more painkillers and still be struggling. And they'll say, look, doctor, this pain is wrecking my life now. I can't work. I'm miserable. I can't play sport. I can't do anything. Do something. And I'll say, yeah, I'll try and help. And then I'll realize that I can't. And then on top of it, often you've got these medications that you're taking, some of which can have side effects and sometimes can be addictive too. Sometimes as doctors, out of desperation, we will try things mainly as we want to help people. We understand how bad it is for some patients. But if you look at our national guidance in the UK for chronic pain, it'll say, don't use paracetamol, don't use anti-inflammatories, don't use benzodiazepines, injections, gabapentinoids, opioids, morphine, and so on. The problem is there isn't a great research evidence for their use. And then you're thinking, well, hang on a minute. Well, that's most of the painkillers. What do you actually want me to use? Well, in the guidance, they suggest using antidepressants as painkillers. But even they don't have a great evidence base for helping either. And even when they do help, often the effect is modest and won't completely kill the pain. So I'm stuck. And worse, sometimes I have to backtrack and take away some of these painkillers that we've been giving to patients, particularly if they're not helping or they're causing side effects of addiction. And I'm doing this at a time when often the patient is thinking, well, hang on a minute, I got this awful pain and now you're taking away things that you gave me before. That makes no sense at all. And that's why for me, I find this so incredibly challenging. And for patients, it's even worse because they're the people that are going through it. So what can you do? Well, if you can't directly get rid of the pain, sometimes, and as corny as it sounds, you can try to add a bit more life into life. You can learn to live better with the pain, better self-manage the pain, such that although the pain is still there, but it's better than it was before, things might not be perfect. You might still have difficulties with your lifestyle, but you're coping better. We can help to do that through things like referrals to pain management services, although there can be long ways. Useful websites, useful books on developing strategies for dealing with pain. For some people, it can be things like light exercise and pacing strategies can be helpful too. And also treating any coexisting anxiety and depression, because often mental health problems and chronic pain go hand in hand. For some people, techniques like mindfulness can be helpful, setting goals for yourself, engaging with others. In some instances, patients try alternative therapies like acupuncture even. But none of this is easy. Rarely is there a single solution. But you can regain some of your life back. Healthcare professionals can perhaps help by working with you to look at the options available and perhaps look at what avenues for support are available in the community, or perhaps involve social prescribers to help look at lifestyle, look at ways to support mental health, and generally try to make the best of a difficult situation. I've included some really useful resources in the description that some patients have found useful and to help better manage their pain. Also some useful videos on this topic too. Now, this is a complex area, and for some people it's a difficult topic and can be quite triggering. But I hope this gives at least some insights. Feel free to give me feedback or suggestions through the comments, or hit the good old like button. Subscribe if you want to hear about more health topics. Thanks for watching and take care.